Yo, ladies and gentlemen. Today was the reveal of Nintendo's latest, well, I shouldn't really say latest console, their next console, because their current console is the Wii U. I don't know why I said latest. But yeah, they announced what this system is. Now, I did make a reveal reaction video, but unfortunately I really bodged it up because I seem to have a real hard time with video, well, not video, with audio levels, because I foolishly recorded it with absolutely no audio in it. It didn't even pick up the audio in the video clip. So yeah, I was an idiot. I did that again. I've really got to learn how to keep up with all these audio settings and stuff, because I'm really bad at that at the moment. But yeah, I want to actually show off what this system is. So we know that there was a system called the Nintendo NX, and today it was announced to be called the Nintendo Switch. And this is Nintendo's hybrid console, and they revealed this video today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually play this video and actually show you guys what this thing is like. So I'm going to just play the video and then point out things that I found very interesting about it. So unfortunately this isn't quite going to be a reaction video, but at least I can actually point out things that I find interesting and point out stuff that might be interesting to you as well. So let's go ahead and just play this video. Oh, no. So what we have right on the bat is that we have this guy playing a game, and obviously that there is Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And we sort of knew that that was a game that was going to be released on the NX. But of course they have to show off the fact that they're playing it, but you'll get to see that there's something a little bit different in this video. And for starters, we have this controller right here. Now, you can't really see it too well, and when I first saw this, I thought that the NX controller was going to look something a bit like the Sega Saturn 3D controller, and it sorta kinda does, but I'll explain that in a moment. So of course we've got the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild playing here, and he's getting really engrossed with it, and his dog which gets angry with him. But that there is the Nintendo Switch logo, and you'll see why this is the logo. It looks sort of like a head with some disorientated eyes on it, but no, you'll see exactly why this is the logo. So of course he goes along, and there's the system right there. So what we're looking at is this thing here is the dock, and you can see the Nintendo Switch logo on it. And then you can see this thing that's wedged into it, and that there is actually the portable. One thing to point out though is that I did notice there's a couple of USB ports here, and I'm hoping that Nintendo will give you the ability to plug in USB devices like external hard drives to put more games onto it if, say, you're going to be one of those people that are going to download games off the internet. Because I did read something online that mentioned something on the lines of that Nintendo kind of wants you to actually go and download games rather than buy cartridges, although you will see later on that there is a way to, well, play games by cartridge. So this isn't a system made purely for downloading games onto, but you'll see. So this is what's called the Joy-Con grip. As you can see, he's actually detaching these controllers, and this was what actually came out of one of the from news articles that I've read in the past that actually mentions that this is a system that actually has detachable controllers on it. And this is actually, you'll actually find out that there are actually two controllers that you can get for this system. This is called the Joy-Con grip. So this thing actually has two separate modules that go in, well, two detachable modules that attach to this thing. And these are called the Joy-Cons, and you'll see exactly what he will do with them. So he's actually got this thing which is called the grip, which allows you to play games on your TV with a much more comfortable controller. But you'll see he'll actually take these out and slot them into the portable like this, and this will then allow him to pull out the portable like that. And yeah, there you go. There is the NX, or what we were calling the NX is actually the Switch. And it's actually almost as big as the Wii U gamepad, although it's obvious it's going to be a little bit smaller. There's not going to be as much of a big border around it. You know, there is a bit of a border around this, but it's nowhere as big as the Wii U gamepad. So it's going to be a little bit smaller than the Wii U gamepad, but it's not going to be that. It's not going to be as big as the Wii U gamepad. Although I wish this thing was actually smaller. One thing that always struck me funny was the fact that there's actually a lot more sales in the 3DS XL rather than the original 3DS, or even the new 3DS for that matter. There's actually way more new 3DS XLs being sold than the smaller models, which is probably the reason why they've decided to make it this massive size. And I can't imagine putting this thing in your pocket. It must be absolutely crazy. But I have read an article that says that Nintendo is trying to sell this as if it's meant to be more of a console rather than a portable, which is rather interesting, seeing as you can actually treat it as if it is a handheld. But let's continue with this video. So, you know, his dog wants to go on a walk, so of course he just takes his game with him whilst his dog goes mad around a park, like so. And what I found funny with this video is this Ganon. There's the pig nose right there. Is he fighting Ganon already? Are we actually seeing the actual bad guy? It is funny though, because they did actually show on the Zelda reveal that Ganon was this spirit that goes around this castle that you see in the background. But it's funny to see this thing. It's just this huge behemoth with a pig nose on it. And unless this guy is meant to be a moblin or just a giant moblin, I wouldn't be surprised if this is actually Ganon. Because Ganon is supposed to be a pig monster after all. Okay, the next bit we have is a guy going to the airport, and you'll see there's your cartridges. Very similar to game cards that you have for the 3DS and the DS. It's believed that these cartridges are actually a little bit thicker than the 3DS and the DS game cards. But hopefully they'll actually store a lot more data, because and it's actually been rumored that these things can actually hold up to 64 gigs of memory, which would be pretty damn impressive. But man, I would hate to know how much these things would cost if it's actually holding that amount of data. Now this is actually a cool thing. So this thing actually comes with its own stand. But we can also see here that you've got this really elongated trigger on the Joy-Cons themselves. So could these things actually be analog? That would actually be cool if this thing actually had analog triggers on it. Although I'm sort of doubting that, seeing as this is a portable. Even though it's a ginormous portable for that fact, if it is going to be anything as big as the gamepad itself, the Wii U gamepad I should say. But yeah, this thing comes with its own little stand, and you'll see exactly why he's going to prop this up with a stand. And this is actually a really cool feature that I think is actually kind of cool with this thing. This right here, as soon as we get to it. Nope. That. So he's actually playing Skyrim, which I honestly thought was going to be the next Elder Scrolls game, but no, it actually turns out to be Skyrim the Definitive Edition, and he's actually playing with the Joy-Cons on their own, without them being detached to the system. And I think that's actually a really cool idea, especially if you do actually use it as a portable, but you want to be a little bit more comfortable, especially if you're going on long airplane rides like you see in this image right here. I think this is actually a really cool idea, and it would actually be really cool if you can actually use other controllers, although you will see later on that that's actually true. They do use the new Pro controller later on in the video, which I will be talking about, but it's actually kind of cool that you can actually use these two Joy-Cons without the need of the grip. The grip that you saw earlier on is only made to make playing games a little bit more comfortable. It's not a necessary thing to have. So yet again, I thought this was going to be a new like a new Elder Scrolls title, but no, it is just Skyrim, which is a bit of a shame because I just didn't get into Skyrim. I just thought it was boring. Now, this is the new Pro controller, and it looks ugly. It doesn't look like something that Nintendo has made. This looks like a weird kind of, if an Ouya controller made love to a DualShock 4 controller and this was the child. I mean, it looks ugly as butt. It really does. The D-pad doesn't look anything like what Nintendo has made. It's actually using more like a GameCube stroke Xbox controller layout, where unlike the Wii U gamepad, where the analogs, the right analog stick I should say, was actually located on the top, they've actually put it back down again to match that of a GameCube or an Xbox controller. But you'll actually notice that the detachable controller on the actual Switch itself is actually in the same position, so it's not actually mimicking that of a Wii U gamepad. It is actually trying to be more something on the lines of an Xbox or a GameCube controller, which is fine, I guess. Maybe people just complained that they didn't like the two analog sticks to be level on the top. Maybe people were getting too confused with that, and that was the reason why they laid it out like this. But they could have just made this controller look better. I mean, there's just something about it that just looks really bland, and something that doesn't even look like it was made by Nintendo. I read a lot of Twitter messages saying that, oh look, Mad Catz is making making a controller for the Switch, and I kept laughing about that. It does sort of look like it's third party. You know, hopefully Nintendo will actually improve on this controller before it comes out. Although I have a tiny bit of a suspicion that maybe they won't, but you'll see one thing that I'll probably end up using if I do get myself a Switch. Now this is actually kind of funny. I would love it if this is actually a product. So what these guys are actually doing is they're mounting the Switch screen into a passenger headrest, which I think is hilarious. If that thing is actually a product that you can purchase to play games in a car, that would be hilarious. And this is a thing that I've heard about as well with these detachable controllers. You can actually take both of these two controllers off the Switch, and then you can actually give one to another person. Now, I did hear about this before it came out, and I didn't really know if that's something they were going to actually do, but this is actually kind of cool because it means that you can actually have multiplayer gaming with a single machine for a portable. Now, you have to remember that because this is a bigger system, you know, this is probably going to be using something like a 6 or a 7-inch display. Running multiplayer games on a single screen on a 7-inch display will probably do a lot better doing it locally like this. And I think that's actually kind of cool that you can actually do that, and it will actually make the multiplayer experience on the Switch even more accessible than the wireless modes that you had on the DS, or even the cartridge-free multiplayer modes that you used to get on the GBA. I think this is going to be so much more accessible for other people, especially if they're not in front of a TV screen. Now, this is where it gets super interesting. So they actually put down two Switches, both on their stands, and watch this. There's 4 people playing games, and they're using just 2 Nintendo Switches. So this is actually kind of sweet. So they've all got a controller each. They're looking at these little screens. Well, I say little, they're 7-inch displays, and yeah, they can have a 4-player game with only 2 systems in a portable fashion like this. And I think that's actually really cool, because this would have never happened in the past. Each person would have to have their own portable system of sorts. If we were talking about the GBA, for example, they'd all have to have a GBA each, and then a link cable and all kinds of other stuff, which may have put off people from playing multiplayer with portables in the past. But this completely breaks that boundary, especially for 4-player action. Now, the reason why I pause with this is that this is actually going to get super interesting, and this is the one thing that I found the most interesting out of them all. So I kind of I really should just shut up and show you it. So yeah, this is the grip. So these 2 modules here, as I showed in the beginning, are the 2 controllers that you get on the side of the Switch unit itself, but it's actually plugged into this thing called the grip, which just makes holding the controllers a little bit more comfortable than just using the Joy-Cons on their own. But you'll actually notice that these things do have like little handles that then come through the bottom of the controller. But check that out. There's going to be a new Mario title, and from looking at it, it has this sort of Mexico theme going on. So I'm going to call this, but could the next Mario title be called Super Mario Fiesta? Or could this even be Super Mario Sunshine 2? But more importantly, as you can actually see in this picture, we've got some Amiibo here. So obviously this system is going to support Amiibo. How it will actually work with this system, I don't know, because I haven't seen any NFC symbols on any of this at all. It could be that it's on the screen, but the only problem is you can actually see from the console here, it actually covers up the screen, and I'm wondering why. But yesterday Nintendo did show off a patent for a Bluetooth Amiibo stand, like an Amiibo stand. And for those who have used a DS for Amiibos, if you own the older 3DSs, you would have to actually purchase a little Amiibo stand which actually ran using infrared. But they are now making a new one that actually uses Bluetooth instead, and I'm wondering if that little Amiibo statue holder thing, whatever you want to call it, is actually going to be the thing you use when you want to use Amiibos for this system when it's mounted in its dock. I'm hoping that if I actually rewind this and actually go back, I'm hoping that they will put an NFC sensor here, but I don't know if they will be doing that, to be honest. I hope they will, because they need to make sure this thing supports Amiibo straight out of the box, because if Nintendo doesn't do that, they're going to get themselves into big trouble. But we do know that seeing this next scene here, that Amiibo is definitely on display, and Amiibo has to work, and Amiibo is going to work on the next Mario title. So we actually get a completely different looking level in the next scene, which looks more like a castle. But you've got to note that there are these big old fountains of water being sprayed in the air. So this game could very well be the next Super Mario Sunshine. But the one thing I do want to point out, there are these gold rings here. And I'm just wondering if those gold rings might have something to do with a certain blue hedgehog, if he does actually appear in the game, because that will be rather interesting. But what you'll see now is that this lady here actually gets a bit distracted because her friends are actually having a rooftop barbecue here. So she takes her Switch with her and she takes it to her friends. But this is the cool bit. So she shows off what this Switch console is, but watch what happens. They're both playing this, and if you unless you have the world's shortest attention span ever, what was she playing before she took her Switch to this party? She was playing the new Mario title, which means that the next Mario title, which is going to be exclusive for the NX, or the Switch, I keep calling it the NX, which is going to be made for the Switch, is going to be multiplayer, as you can see, because these two ladies are actually playing the next Mario title, or as I'm going to call it, Super Mario Fiesta, 2-player, which means that Luigi has to appear in the game somehow, or if the gold rings are to go by, possibly even Sonic, which would be even more mad than anything else. But this obviously proves that there is some multiplayer content within the next Mario title. Okay, now this next bit really shows pro gaming. And I don't know if this is really going to be a thing, and it doesn't really show off anything new, although I will show you one thing. So they're planning on a tactic, and here you go. We've now got what looks just like Splatoon that's going to be on this system. And it really doesn't look anything different compared with Splatoon, which is on the Wii U. And to be brutally honest, I think that this new Splatoon game is just going to be a port of the Wii game. And if anything, I hope they're going to add some additional content. But I have a feeling that it is just going to be a port of the first Splatoon. If it's going to be Splatoon 2 or Splatoon, as some people are calling it, that would be kind of cool, although I really doubt it, because I'm looking at these screenshots and they don't look any different, to be perfectly honest. So here's a better look at that Pro controller right there, and again, I really don't like it. So yeah, you've got these pro gamers, and now they're going to go right here. And I would love to know how many people they actually got to be into this. You'll see exactly what I mean in a second. So we've got Splatoon right there. We've got your pro controllers. But here's the thing. How do they get all these people? I would be surprised if they actually got this many people to watch some people play a console that was kept secret. I mean, this has to be 3D rendered some way or another. This has to be fake. There was probably, there was definitely some people in the audience, because if we rewind a bit, there's obviously some people there. But I don't think it's that many people. But it would be interesting to see if the Switch will be a system that will be played by pro gamers. And I was surprised that, Splatoon really needs to be one of those games that does become an esport, because it does have some esport mentality. The problem with it is that you can't run the game in a LAN, and if you play with random people, you get thrown into a random team. You can't organise your teams very well. So hopefully, if there's going to be this new Splatoon game that you see here, hopefully it will give you way more flexibility in what team you're going to be in, if you can actually play the game locally. But even then, if we go back, I mean, they obviously are. They are playing this game. Man, I can't get to it. Yeah, here we go. They're definitely playing this game with each other. I don't know if this is actually online play or if it's local play, but it's obvious to see that they are actually playing Splatoon with each other in the same room, rather than playing Splatoon with each other over the internet. But if we then go back to this scene, yeah, so we've got the fake audience.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, and it's going to be coming out in March of next year. Now that's the crazy bit. Nintendo's got some serious marketing to do if it really is going to be coming out in March. Richard from Review Tech USA has said that this might actually be what will hurt Nintendo, because they really need to get some super push into marketing, especially for those that have no idea what this is or doesn't really get into gaming media very much. So non-gamers, for example, will have no idea what this thing is unless they are told by the media itself. And videos like this, I mean, yes, gamers like us will be interested in stuff like this, but you really need to make everyone know what this is. I mean, that's how the Wii became the success it was. But I really have a hard time thinking that it will actually come out in March. Although there has been a lot of articles that I've read for the reasons why they've kept this announcement for so long. One of them being that the Mario title, see if I can actually bring that video back a second. Yeah, here we go. There's rumors that say that the reason why it was delayed was because this Mario title was just so buggy and unbelievable that they felt that it wasn't good enough to even show. So there's a possibility that this game was an absolute bitch to make. But, you know, again, that's just speculation and rumor. I don't know. But another thing that I've also read is that Nintendo might be trying to do using some Apple tactics, because Apple in the last few years, especially when they reveal a new iPhone, for example, it's usually the customers can get hold of it in like a week, the week or the next 2 weeks. It just, and they can actually get away with, creating so much hype in such a small amount of time because it's an Apple product. Although I have a real hard time that Nintendo will actually be able to do it unless they actually delay the system. I was hoping that they would say something like May, but the further they go into like the summer, it's going to get harder and harder for them. Making this as realistic as possible, they should really aim for November of next year, because that will just make so much more sense. Not only will they have so much more time to reveal what this system is, to show off what it is, and even to have an E3 to show off software for this system, they can then get enough time to then launch the machine before Black Friday of 2017. To make it March, though, just feels like it's 6 months too early, and I don't know how successful they're going to make this. But yeah, I don't know. It's such a tricky date in my opinion. One thing I do want to point out, and something that I had actually read in an article once this video actually came out, if you actually look at any of these, this video in general, you'll see that there is one thing you've got to take into to mind with all these, what you can actually see in this video, and it's the fact that no one's touching the display. There's a lot of speculation going on right now that the Switch, as you can see here, is not actually a touchscreen. It's just going to act as just a regular screen. That this thing is going to be just like an oversized, like an oversized PSP. And I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or not. There has to be some form of touch interface on this thing, because I can't really imagine a new Nintendo product that now doesn't have a touchscreen interface to it. I mean, the Wii U did, the DS, I mean, the DS was the reason why touchscreen products became so big in the first place. I mean, I can't imagine the iPhone or even tablets coming out if it wasn't for the fact that the DS became as popular as it did. So to think that this system might not have a touchscreen display just because these guys that are playing these games are not using the touchscreen makes me sort of, makes me a little bit anxious to think that this might not be such a great product because, or at least it won't be a good product, especially for everyone, if it doesn't have the touchscreen to it. I mean, think of it like this. This might be a console that would be very hard to sell to kids because kids now just want to play with iPads and stuff, and smartphones and things like that. So when you give them a game system where they can't touch the screen, it almost feels like it's old hat for them, and that's going to be a real tough sell if you can't sell these to kids. I mean, it's going to be real tough if this is not a touchscreen. I personally don't care if it has a touchscreen or not, because chances are I'll probably just use the buttons anyway. But this is going to be a real tough sell, especially if you're going to be selling this, to younger audiences, because of the lack of touchscreen. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I am interested in this system. I wouldn't say that I'm terribly excited about it. I am excited to a certain degree. Probably not super excited. At least I would be interested in actually playing it, and at least getting a chance to play whatever exclusive games are on the machine. But yeah, I just hope that Nintendo will actually do well with this system, because the Wii U definitely did not do any favors for Nintendo whatsoever. So hopefully they'll learn from those mistakes and actually try to make this possibly one of the most accessible machines that they can get, that they can sell even. One thing to point out though, and this is something I've tried to explain with people on like Facebook and Twitter, is that a lot of people are confused to why Nintendo is actually making this hybrid console, something that can be played on the TV or something that you can actually play whilst you're out and about. And it's mainly because they're trying to hit two birds with one stone. That being that a lot of Western gamers actually prefer to play games on the TV, whilst a lot of Eastern gamers, like Japanese people for the most part, mostly commute and travel a lot. So, you know, when you have a system that can actually do both, they're hitting both markets at the same time with one product. So you won't necessarily need to have a home console and a portable console to get access to all the games you want to play. You can actually get both a machine that can play those games both portably and on the TV at the same time, which I think is actually a really clever marketing thing to do from Nintendo. And I really think that this is going to do well for Nintendo, or at least I hope that this is going to do well for Nintendo, because in Japan, games consoles are just not selling. I mean, if you've looked at any Japanese figures in the last, back in August, for example, the PS4 is doing really badly in Japan, by the way. In Japan, in August, they only sold something like 4,000 PS4s, and they sold as many Wii U's in the same month. I mean, man, gaming in general in Japan is moving more towards like tablets and phones, and they're almost giving up on consoles. And this is sort of Nintendo's reach to get into that sort of, we need to have portable games to be almost like these like mobile phones and tablets, and trying to make them as good as they can for a portable environment that will be like playing games at home. And even though the Vita has kind of done this and didn't do terribly well in the West, it at least did very well in Japan. I mean, the Vita is still selling bucket loads in Japan, but it's not doing so well in the Western world because you can't really attach it to a TV screen. So this nails it in both markets, and I have a feeling that when for the West, you're probably going to be playing it like this dude here, where he's playing the game on his TV. This is probably going to be the Western Switch owner, by the way, that just plays his Switch on his big screen TV. And then if we go to this one here, where we have this couple right here, this is probably going to be what you'll see with Eastern gamers. They'll most likely be on the train or on the bus playing their Switch on the go. And I think that that's what's going to happen. And this product hits both of those criteria in one. And I think that's really smart of Nintendo to do that. So that's all I've really got to say about the Switch. I think it's a clever idea. I just hope that Nintendo will actually do a good job of it. Until we actually get more details about what games are coming out for it, and what kind of prices we're going to expect, and what kind of specifications we're going to be looking at, there's not really much else that I can really talk about. So yeah, it's from between now and March, I hopefully will hear a lot more about this machine. But for the time being, keep your eyes out for any more details on the Switch, and I will be talking about them in the future. So I'll see you guys around. Ciao.